The Giant is not at all considered a standard of reliability, but for some reason, synonyms for the word Tahoe are chosen exactly like this: fundamental, convincing, 100%. Let's try to figure out the reasons. The third generation Tahoe was released in 2006. The midsize SUV by American standards is built on the GMC 9Q0 platform, which it shares with the GMC Yukon and Cadillac Escalade. Only a person with a broad soul can own such a monster. It's unlikely that the Tahoe's sprawl, in terms of fuel consumption, parts cost, and breakdown rate, will appeal to the curmudgeon. However, let's not slander a 100% Yankee. He compensates for the shortcomings with the charm of a comfortable frame SUV, indispensable on a long journey. Severe conciseness of design and classic all-terrain solutions provided Tahoe with credibility. The frame is based on a continuous axle on springs and rods at the rear, and an independent suspension on double levers in front. The transmission will warm up with the presence of a full-fledged low gear in the transfer case, but the drive to the front wheels is transmitted using a multi-plate clutch. Speaking of the motor, we will have in mind the most common 5.3-liter 325 horsepower V8 petrol in our country. In addition to it, there was another pair of 8s, a volume of 4.8 liters, 280 horsepower, and 6.1 liters, 305 forces. The transmission is just an automatic, with varying degrees of success coping with the hefty weight of the Giant. The V8 has few chronic problems. In particular, the wear of the camshaft drive gear can be mentioned. When mounting, you have to change the camshaft bushings. Mechanics see the reason in low-quality oil and advise every 5,000 kilometers to fill in synthetics, with which such problems do not happen. But the timing chain drive is almost eternal. It does not require replacing the chain sometimes even after 300,000 kilometers. Another equally common problem is the leakage of coolant from under the intake manifold gaskets. Their replacement can require up to 20,000 rubles. Fuel injectors, as well as the throttle valve, require regular removal of deposits. It is useful to recall that the fuel pump does not like to pump air, therefore, you should not travel around with an empty tank. The GM Hydra Malik has a reputation for reliability in theory, but when buying its diagnostics is required, the box does not tolerate aggressive driving. If something goes wrong with the AKP, you'll experience markets and shifting twitchiness, which guarantees quick repair costs of $1,500 and up. You should keep the AKP radiator clean. Overheating and oil starvation quickly disable the transmission. If you often drive in the 4-high* mode on asphalt, then the front gearbox will need to be repaired, from $3,000. Injection of crosspieces and suspension is necessary at each maintenance. And at the turn of 150,000 kilometers, you will have to think about rebuilding the transfer case and the rear axle. Everything is said again. The chassis is generally strong. Its durability depends on the driving style, but the average replacement interval is about 70,000 kilometers. The main problem with their suspension is shock absorbers. They lose their tightness on almost all machines. Solve the issue of non-native shock absorbers. There are no complaints about the effectiveness of the brakes, but the resource of brake discs and pads, alas, does not exceed 25,000 kilometers. The body is resistant to reagents, although the fender liner will be quite useful. Several years of driving in Russia, and the paint flies off the unprotected wheel arches and sills. The fuel line and electrical equipment suffer greatly from reagents. Contacts and connectors are oxidized. Sometimes even wiring harnesses begin to rot. Electricity is generally a weak point here. Any non-contact is possible, especially in winter. By this time, many are probably already scared and forever ready to forget about their childhood dream, a huge American SUV. Do not get confused. With this machine, all problems are completely solvable. There are no random breakdowns here. Chevrolet Tahoe has one important secret. The car has an extremely high maintainability, which is why it is generally accepted that the Tahoe resource is very large. Almost any unit here can be repaired by sorting. Another thing is the cost of components. It is quite adequate for the size and weight of the car. High. Engine. The permissible oil consumption is 1 liter per 2,000 kilometers. The cost of a standard set of works with the replacement of oil and engine filters will be in the region of 8,000 rubles. A larger service with the replacement of all vehicle fluids will cost 20,000 rubles. Our 92nd is too tough for the engine. Most often, candles fail, but it happens that you have to change a jammed fuel pump. Installing a new one can pull 35,000 rubles. Transmission. Versions with automatic connection of the front axle sometimes suffer from a recorded friction clutch drive motor, while the clutch itself, as well as the automatic transmission, work properly. The oil in the clutch block and box is changed every 30,000 kilometers. 2 liters of clutch oil plus replacement work will cost about 3,000 rubles. The chassis also loves high-quality lubrication. Without it, wheel bearings quickly die. Miscellaneous. Among the common sores is the corrosion of the gas pipeline laid along the frame. Replacement costs about 15,000 rubles. Many are not satisfied with the dim headlights. The problem of lighting is solved by xenon, from $350. The main problems are classified as electrical and are caused for the most part not by the quality of the wiring itself, but by the quality of the firmware. Glitches can be quite serious.